Welcome to Hey, It's Carly Rae's Book Club. This is Book Hour where authors talk their latest novels, reveal their writing process, and chat all things books. I'm your host, Carly Rae, here with bestselling author Jewel E. Ann. Welcome, Jewel. I'm so excited to have you. Tell us where you're joining us from.
Hi, thank you, CarlyRae. So I am joining you from Ankeny, Iowa, just outside of the capital, Des Moines.
Yeah. Now tell us about your latest novel, If This Is Love.
If This Is Love is a little bit of a darker romance. It was inspired by my obsession with Yellowstone. I have never written a cowboy romance, but after binging enough seasons of Yellowstone, I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm always up for a new challenge. So it is Yellowstone that is more of a forbidden age gap romance with truly awful characters. I love writing a good villain. So I just threw it out there. I'm always willing to take a risk.
Well, If This Is Love centers around a forbidden love between Milo and Indy. What inspired you to tell their love story?
Well, lately I've been oddly obsessed, given the fact that I'm 48 years old. I've been oddly obsessed with this romance of younger people a little bit. I love that coming of age. Uh, I love writing a romance where there's an older hero and a younger heroine, where you feel that they meet in the middle with their maturity. Just, they say that, girls are often more mature. But I liked the idea of almost having this princess. There's no castle and she's not a princess, but in a way, this like princess stuck in a castle, and she's got this ruler, this mean father of hers, and having this, prince come and rescue her. And that is very flowery definition of it because it's a very gritty story. But I like that idea. And I didn't know where this story was going. I never do when I sit down to write a story. But I jumped into this book and the characters just grew on me. Even the villains, those awful characters, there's something so great about writing these characters where you feel like everybody else is overcoming the wrath of these, awful characters. And I loved writing it. And the feedback's been really, really good for it. And so I'm thrilled anytime my readers are up for something new from me like that.
Yeah. Now, what was your favorite chapter to write in If This Is Love?
Oh gosh. So there is, and this isn't a spoiler because it's given in the blurb, there is a wedding scene in this book towards the middle of the book. And it is so angsty and so heartbreaking. And I felt it on this visceral level while I was writing it. And that was my favorite scene. I have other scenes, but there's a lot packed into this wedding scene that is just like angst galore.
Now, who was your favorite character to write?
Oh, my favorite character to write. Probably Indy, and I don't normally say that about the female characters, but I liked writing Indy and taking her through this 10-year-old child that you meet at the beginning of the story. And I like taking characters through a process through the years and showing how they grow and mature and how they take these hard knocks in life and they make the best of them. And Indy just had everything terrible that could happen to her kind of happened to her. I'm very mean to my female characters sometimes, but I related to her in the sense that I remember being the young girl and having that feeling of new love and a crush on somebody who's older than me. And she was fun to write. I could go back and tell you the villains, but that would probably make people judge me pretty poorly if I said I loved writing those villains, but I did.
Now, what are you most excited for readers to read in If This Is Love?
Most excited for them to read. Oh gosh.
The villains?
There's so much to it. I feel like there's something for everyone depending on what you latch onto. But the villains are there. But I love Indy and Milo. Whenever you have them together, they're in their own little bubble, their own little world. And I like all of those moments where they're together. but yeah, I want him to get to the middle of the book because it's a kind of a part one and part two. That's the part I like. It's not really a plot twist. But it's definitely this halfway point of the book where your heart is just up in your throat. And I love seeing on social media the reaction to when readers get to those parts of a story, because I get to relive it through their eyes. And I think as an author, that's super exciting, because it's like I didn't write it. It's like, oh, what's going to happen? That feeling of excitement.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes them keep wanting to read more.
Absolutely. I hope so.
Yeah. Well, how long did you brainstorm for the plot of If This Is Love before you started crafting it? Or did you like have like that aha moment after binging Yellowstone?
Yeah, I mean, I think watching Yellowstone was pretty much a slow process of, could I write a book? And it wasn't until any storyline with Yellowstone. It was more that it was set on a ranch with these wealthy people, and how most of the characters on Yellowstone, like even the ones that you sometimes can cry and shed some tears for, they can be awful characters too. And I loved the feeling of addiction while watching it, of how are these people so awful, but I keep tuning in to watch their terrible behavior. And so when I don't give a lot of thought to books before I sit down and write. I just need one tiny spark of an idea. I don't know where it's going. I don't outline my books. I just sit down and write. And like so many authors, I'm sure, as you're aware, are talking about voices in their heads. So there's just the voices in the head. So I don't spend a lot of time plotting. Actually, if I plot too much before I sit down and write, it kind of messes with my writing mojo. I feel all of a sudden like I backed myself into some corner, and I don't like that. I'm going to sit down to that blank screen and let the words flow.
My professor says it's story elves. You have to keep your story elves ready.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, you've published numerous novels over the years. What's your favorite part of being an author?
Oh, wow. My favorite part of being an author is probably the connection that I didn't expect with readers. I wasn't part of the book world in the sense where we talk about it like Bookstagram and Book Talk and all of that. I wasn't active on social media. I had never heard of like a book blog, or these like through indie publishing, how they do online book tours. I had never heard of any of that. I had not read a digital book before I started writing. I was reading, I'm really aging myself like a dinosaur here. I'm not that old, but I liked the physical copies. I got my books
Yeah.
from the library and from the bookstores. So I had to do a lot of research into this, but I did not expect the surprise of the book community. Like, talking to readers about books, and not just about my books, but about anybody's books, and how tight knit the community can be, and how kind and generous. And I know there's drama with any community out there, but for the most part, it's a really great community. And going to book signings and seeing that we're all just a bunch of book nerds who love fiction and the written word, it's that part is my favorite. And it's also the part that took me by surprise.
Yeah. Now, did you always want to write? Was that always something you wanted to do?
Oh, no, no, no. I had a crazy path. I was good at writing in high school as far as probably my strength, but it just seemed like, it's like a hobby. It's like if I'm good at sculpting or something, that you think the percentage of people in the arts that actually can go on to make a living with their art is pretty small. So I never gave it a second thought. I was good in the sciences too. So I ended up going to school and becoming a dental hygienist. I did that for 10 years. I raised a family, worked for my husband's business. I opened a retail store where I sold like eco living goods before they were actually all that popular. And then one day I had a friend who said, you should write a book. And I was child number 3 on the way. I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Didn't know anything about anything. And I didn't realize I had a book in me. I had a lot of books in me. And writing is very therapeutic. It's actually for my mental and emotional and spiritual well-being. an amazing thing. I also have been surprised at how therapeutic and healing writing is for me. Like, I think get cranky if I go a few days and I haven't written. It's just like the people who say that like they exercise a lot and they need that high that you get. And it's not really a high, it's actually more of a calmness, like a cleansing thing of like, I've emotionally let some stuff go into these fictional worlds. So if I'm always telling people, if you honestly think you want to write something and maybe you don't publish it, but write it, you will be better off for having let that go.
Now, do you have like a free write journal, or is it always just part of like a story you have?
Nope, I don't. I years back I journaled when I was had young kids. I think that was just a sanity thing of keeping my sanity. No, I just sit down and write. I think about my stories. I love music, so when I do go out for my daily walks and take my dog for a walk, especially if I have like headphones going, even if I don't have that and I'm just out in nature, I love being outside. I'm always dreaming. So I call myself a professional daydreamer. It's very cool to make a living with what comes from daydreaming. I mean,
Yeah.
how many jobs can say that?
Yeah. Now, do you ever feel like you might run out of ideas? Like, what inspires you to keep telling stories?
Um, the days that I feel like I'm suffering early dementia or things like that. I don't believe I am, but there's, those days. I wonder if the stories will continue to come to me or if I can always make up fiction. I don't know if they'll run out. I'm always having people give me story ideas a lot. 99.9% of them won't ever become stories because they've already been told or it doesn't appeal to me. But so far, I feel like I always have lots of story ideas. And I think the hardest part is when you let too much noise. That's where too much social media, too many outside opinions can make it hard to focus because you start to feel like you need to write to what you think your readership wants, knowing that that's a diverse set of opinions out there. And so if I get around too much social media or start internalizing too much, I can feel like I have writer's block. And what the block is I'm afraid to write something. Well, did this group not like my last romantic suspense book? Should I go back to a rom-com? Oh, but I didn't have a lot of people that love the rom-com as much as that book. You know how you kind of just like get in your head and you think, oh no, this is not good. It's stifling to my creativity when that happens.
Yeah. Now, do you have a book two planned to this novel or any other books releasing soon?
I don't have any other book related to If This Is Love. It will be a standalone. I don't know if any of the characters are redeemable enough that there would be a spinoff to it, honestly. So it's a standalone. As far as upcoming projects, I've taken on two new projects this year that I'm working on are taking novellas that I've written for like anthologies or newsletter building campaigns, and I'm making them into full-length novels, probably on the shorter word count side, maybe 50 to 60,000 words, not as long as the other ones, but still considered a novel. And it's really challenging, but I like a good challenge. The challenging part is how you took something that had to be fast paced and you need to slow it down a little bit, but you don't want it to just be this jarring, like, wow, we were moving along and now we're this molasses. So it's been a good challenge. I haven't completed one of them yet, but it will come out when I do get done with it, hopefully in the next month. It will come out this summer. We're hoping for like maybe a July release. We're throwing that out there. I have a Christmas novella that I'm wanting to expand a little bit, and then I will be adding to my Jack and Jill series what I'm calling the final book, which is sad. That is personally my favorite story that I've written. So I know authors who've written series and they feel like they're ending that. It's kind of heartbreaking because these people are very real to you and the emotions are real. So I've started that book, but now I've just kind of set it aside to complete a few other projects. But I'm excited to get back to that probably by midsummer here and say goodbye to these characters.
Well, is there anything else you want to add to viewers where they can find you on social media or any other things?
Gosh, the best place to find, I guess, where I'm at, since I can't usually rattle off, is to go to my website, was just julianne.com. So you can find my YouTube channel and all my social media spots there. I have a private Facebook group and it gives you all the information about my books. So the website is probably the best place to go.
All right. Well, you heard Jewel. Go check out her latest novel, If This Is Love, and all of her links are down below in the description. Thank you all so much for joining me on this episode of Book Hour. Tune in next week for an all new episode. In the meantime, you can stay up to date on all things Hey It's Carly Rae on social media at HeyitsCarlyRae and on my website, HeyitsCarlyRae.com. Thank you, Jewel.
Thanks, Carly Rae.